Thank you, Convener, and I concur with what you just said. And before I start, I'll move the recommendations and we'll look for a seconder. This paper sets out the challenges that the Council has been recognising for some time now in putting a capital plan together for a 5-year period. This really should have been done back in March when we set a 1-year capital plan. The reasons for that were explained in the paper to Council at that time, but one of the main reasons that was given was we still awaited the outcome of our bids to the Scottish Government's Learning Estate Investment Programme, or LEAP. The cost of delivering the projects in the previous capital plan have increased considerably since the last time it was reviewed. Interest rates, costs of borrowing, not knowing what the outcome of our LEAP bids, all factors impacting on what we can afford to do. Many communities have been looking forward to a number of projects being delivered in their area, particularly school build projects, and it is utterly regrettable at this time that we cannot immediately process with those plans. In the plan presented to Council today, we have looked at what we can do in the meantime to be able to support the repair and maintenance of schools where, at this moment in time, we cannot deliver a new school because we simply can't afford to until the Scottish Government advises on our LEAP bids. We have looked very carefully at what we need to do and what we can do, but most importantly, what we can afford to do. The changes in the financial circumstances and affordability of the Council to be able to deliver what we can is stated in the report. There are annual capital costs that we need to look at in order to continue expected levels of service delivery. One of those areas, for instance, is capital expenditure on our roads infrastructure. The base capital of £7.2 million remains as in previous years. We know that we have increased this figure in previous years, and how we can afford to do that during the Council's review of the revenue budget, and the options to review that for the next financial year remain. I thank the Council officers for fully explaining the reasons for Council proceeding with Cllr Raymond Primary School, where over 80% of project costs have been raised from developer contributions. I also thank Council's members for agreeing the funding for the land purchase for St Clement's in this year's capital budget back in March. Likewise, the cost of emergency works relating to RAC are necessarily being incurred in the current year. All these factors can be further considered in future discussions in respect of the capital plan, and the administration is committed to bringing further updates to Council in the future, with the first of these updates being at the October Council, and that was explained by the Section 95 officer in the last slide. We remain committed to building these named school projects, but we have to be honest. These schools can only be built when we have the money to do so. We don't expect that to appear in the immediate future, but as soon as resources permit, we will move to meet your expectations and deliver your schools. For the record, and to reassure communities, whilst facing unprecedented financial challenges in delivering a capital plan for a 5-year period, this administration remains committed to building the named schools in the capital plan. We need to be able to afford to do that, but at this moment in time we unfortunately cannot. But we'll make every effort to look at funding mechanisms that will allow us to deliver on that commitment in the future. Even in the past few days, we have heard governments refer to the effect that reinforced autoclaved aerated concrete, or RAC, has had on their consideration for funding of school estate capital projects. Local authorities all over Scotland are having to consider how best they now provide for their school estate, and I'm afraid Highland Council is no different. I'm very aware that this report will be hugely disappointing to many, and I thoroughly expect and appreciate members to speak to that in respect of how their own local areas may be affected. As soon as we can afford to build new schools, believe me, we will. Right now, I wish we could do more. For the moment, however, this capital plan sets out what we can do as a basis for the next 5 years. Thank you, everybody.